podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you can please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee.
All right, so we're gonna get into a conversation add on today. We are live on planet Earth as usual. I mean, shout out to the astronauts, you know what I'm saying, going around the moon. And it did happen. Isn't it, y'all out there on that other time? I'm picking fights. I'm picking fights. All 2026. I'm letting y'all know I'm picking fights. Coming for all y'all, coming for y'all, coming for y'all Aboriginal people, coming for all of that. And y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people in Australia. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I got time. 2026.
2026.
Had
all
enough.
Offense. I know defense.
Had enough. People worked too hard, fought too hard. Y'all be out here being fully unscientific and ahistorical and lacking any basis in reason and structure. So anyway, that brings us to AI. So AI has been happening, and I think we may have mentioned it, but I wanted to add on with you. I got around to reading the one joint you sent me a couple weeks ago. I think it was Ezra Klein joint, and then there's some other stuff I've been reading, and there's the data center aspect, which is now seen, at least from a policy perspective, especially in my life, has become the primary conversation, right? Almost around AI is been the data center or not data center, or at least the most active one. The other one in my other part of my life is still been, in education. And if something is or isn't AI, or if it says AI on the package, does it actually mean AI is being used? Like just a multitude of issues. So I think the entry point I wanted to get your sense was, even just as maybe a preliminary add-on, is just like, what is your own exposed, like how have you engaged with the AI tools, or sometimes AI tools? Like, what is, because I now share, some of what my nascent experience has been as well, but I wanted to get a sense from you, like where is the AI conversation resonating with you at the moment?
Allen Iverson.
That's right. It's the only AI we recognize out here. You know what I'm saying?
That's
the answer.
The only the answer.
Real answer.
Bubba Chuck. Right. The original answer. Before you knew answers, before you talked to the computer about the answer,
that's right.
The brother from Time Order had the answer.
That's right.
Philly had more answers. Nah, shouts out to Bubba Chuck. So and that folks listening may not know, but I'm a dinosaur. For folks who debated they existed too, that's another discussion. But so I'm a cold-blooded dinosaur. But I have known enough, to start investigating kind of what AI means. Personally, I'm seeing it in Messiah's life. I'm seeing it culturally, right? Like I'm starting to look at all the places where it ends up, right? And thinking about something that serves to aid and speed up and accelerate what you're doing, while at the same time being quite dangerous about like how humans compile information, engage information, and even engage in like engage systems. And then there's a professional sense. So for the last like 4 years, I worked at a regional economic development organization where, but because of AI and the things that were done at Carnegie Mellon University and other places at University of Pittsburgh, AI became like the thing that is going to like save Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a history of stuff that's going to save
I was gonna
Pittsburgh.
say
It's a
the
60-year-old
fish. It
issue.
was a fish, and
The
then
fish, the Dr.
say
J,
that's it was gonna
uh,
save it.
Volkswagen. I've been reading the book,
Oh,
learning about how Volkswagen was supposed to save Pittsburgh.
man.
Sony came in, was
So,
supposed to save Pittsburgh. Like we got a whole host of then Marcellus Shale digging to get oil and natural gas was going to save Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh got a 60-year-old story with that, which is fascinating. I think all cities are. I think most cities are grappling with a question, and it just debates how they answer the question, and then they leave the question or continue to ask themselves that question for another time. But so for me, it's looking at it a couple ways. One, it's like I said, my own personal use, not that much, but everyone around me uses it. So it's kind of like you're using it even if you don't think you're using it. And then when you recognize how prevalent it is and what everyone else is doing in your life, you recognize you're engaging it.
yeah.
It's like capitalism. Like you act like you don't like capitalism,
Trying to
but
get
you're
out.
engaging capitalism. Right. And so that's it for me. Like I said, my previous work, it was about the role of data centers. And I was able to go out to Ohio and see some data centers based on what Columbus was doing. And it's fascinating when you see them because they're big as football fields and there's literally 8 people working in them.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot of people to build them, but not a lot of people work there.
Yeah, it's not a lot of jobs.
Right? It's not a lot of jobs. But it's made interesting bedfellows because labor, organized labor is all with them because they just build one and go build another one. Right. So it's for them, it's a consistent form of jobs, but it doesn't provide a lot of jobs to an area. Um, and then obviously when you start to think about the role of the biases in AI, I don't know if I shared with you, but when I was at the event over in Morocco, and it was a conversation with Black folks that were in AI technology and talked about AI, and a lot of it was just the biases. And one thing the sister brought up was like, well, you have to be looking at the formation of LLMs, of large language models. Like you can't just be at the end of the game talking about AI and then continue to play about AI. Like you have to be in the actual process. Another point you made was that data centers as much, or in like AI slop, we talk about how much water it uses. And, she was also noting that in the future, you're going to see other countries and you're going to see very democratized use of AI because countries who figure out how to do data centers in ways that they kind of save and recycle water or save and recycle energy are going to be really powerful. And that the assumption that like all data centers have to be as harmful just isn't true, right? So it's very interesting, so I look at it a couple ways. I know it's omnipresent. I'm dealing with it. I read a lot about AI taking jobs in like the creative spaces, and a lot of the fight that's going to come. I think we're going to see a lot of fights in the very near future around entertainment and the rules of entertainment and AI. I mean, you saw a couple months ago before Disney backed off of it, they had kind of partnered with, I think it was Sora, to do like their AI slop, and they had
Right,
actually
like you
they
can
were
make
going to
your
share
own.
the
Yeah,
Disney. Yeah, they were going to
you
share
make
the
your own
Disney
like
characters
Disney, like
because they were that paranoid about like it's going to happen without you,
yeah,
right? Only interestingly enough to back up, and then the last thing I'll say is the political mind in me thinks about Anthropic and Mythos, right? And so you get Anthropic that's kind of like tells the government what they're not going to do. The government throws a tantrum. And for anyone who's listening, say, what do you mean the government throw a tantrum? You can go read what the half of the
yeah. You
government
can go.
actually says.
Yeah, you did.
Um, and we're not dealing with you no more. We're basically going to make you a security risk, which is basically like a death sentence to a tech company, right? Like if you say they're a national security risk, you're basically saying you don't want them to exist. But interestingly enough, just like we talked about with the NFL, somehow Anthropic and the White House are back at the table.
So it's about they worked it out.
AKA, sometimes when you got beef with somebody, I don't often tell you to take the White House, but Don't be so upset, man. It'll be work. Can work it out. If Trump can work it out with Anthropic, you can work it out with the person that the person that stole your sparkling water from the office and the refrigerator. Um, but then the last thing is this whole mythos, right? And this idea that Anthropic has something so powerful that like it can just disrupt society, but they're not letting nobody use it, which is also crazy. Like,
Like we got this
like
thing.
we got something that's so wild that only we got it. So I just think about, and this is really the last thing. Sound like a preacher. That how are our children going to be aware and conscious of how things are written in AI and how things are written by people? Right, like you can kind of tell now, like like when you see copy and it's like these things aren't just thought about, they're dealt with in the streets,
It's so
in
so
the
dramatic.
offices,
So
in
it's
the
so dramatic.
suites. We just didn't like we just didn't make it better. We elevated, consecrated. Like that's AI, right? Nobody wrote that. But as the language models get better, and they will, your ability to deal with that is also going to be more complicated. So that's kind of like the biggest way and the biggest issue I think about it.
Yeah. So it's like for me, it's a couple things. One is it's like I know it's not like as I said to someone like it doesn't really know what it's telling you, but it is like the way that you may know a thing, and people are and then it gets to that like why am I over here worried about stuff that other people they like so what it gave me an answer that was 90% approximate to what I was trying to get to, so whatever, and I'm over
Right,
here
whatever,
like
Joe.
I'm over here fighting fighting some sort of righteous cause.
You talk about the meta. You don't win meta. Talk about it doesn't know though. Like you
It doesn't actually
know.
know, but so like there was I remember having a while back. I was like, well, we were ready to listen to a couple things. They're like, yeah, if you really want to understand the AI, you gotta like, you gotta get a subscription to one and really try to use some of the tools, right? And I was like, okay, I mean, I guess. And they're like, not like you can search for certain things, and then they're like, no, what you got to do is you got to give it something, and then have it do something based on the stuff you gave it. Which I was like, that seems interesting. I was like, I mean, I don't really like. I want to get all my old rhyme books out and be like, here, write me a new rap in the way I wrote a rhyme in 1998. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? Like, I don't know if I'm AI knowing all that. You know what I'm saying? Then on the on the back end is always the concern, especially if you're not paying for something, and even in this case, from I understand some of these router tools, you don't know what backdoor is on the back end. You don't know what stuff is actually searchable by a third party, whether that be law enforcement or an employer or whomever. But then I got to like these other layers, right? And I started reading, and there's like people that's like, oh, you can build an AI that doesn't actually run like on the cloud. You can build these joints that like run on like a Raspberry Pi. That's like it's just yours. Like ain't nobody, it ain't connected to nothing but what you connected to, right? And
Right.
um, and the sense of not being and the policy moment of it becomes a thing. I think we return like we're at the place where it's like there's people. If you talk about AI, even I think if people see a clip of this AI, there'll be somebody in the comments like AI is the devil, and you shouldn't use it if you're a real progressive or you're a real fill in the blank political position,
Right.
and it's destroying the water, and it's doing this and the gas, and all and again it's this thing of all these things that are true about the space of AI as a whole, right? But may not be if we talk about square miles versus square inches, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like at a square miles level, yes, all of these things are true. Also at a square inches level is a AI model that might be put to use in an environment where you don't have constant access to the internet and power. So you would maybe develop, and you have a different cultural environment surrounding the tool. You make totally different decisions. As I had this conversation with my son, how surprising is that a tool lies about itself, made by people who lie all the time? Yeah, of course it'd be mimicking them. It'd be lying.
Right,
Like,
right.
"Oh, I didn't do that." It's like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, it should behave like y'all. It's trained on your perspective of the world, right? So then you think like, well, if I had to, what we need? We need a righteous name for our AI. We don't got to get that right now. Nobody steal it.
Okay.
Everybody's what you think about that. We had a righteous name AI tool.
Need like Azrael, or does it like we had to like buttons? Does it
That's
need
it.
like the name out Supreme Man?
Yeah.
Gonna be like,
He come through, you'd be like, such and such. You know what I'm saying? Give me let me know where my data,
oh man,
where my files at.
Divine
So,
Lord,
so,
tell me what you've been thinking about today.
you know what I'm
Here's
saying?
what I've been thinking about. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it take all my free rights for the last week and give me some feedback on it or something. Like, I can see where like this tool that can hopefully bounce back to you something that you're doing, or if you're writing or you're reading or you're studying, you're organizing data. And then there's other like more discrete stuff like, that people can, what they call vibe code stuff up on it and all these other things. So it's the conundrum of like, do you eschew the tool due to like the foolishness that surrounds it? Or do you try to figure out how is this space useful to me? Then gets into, my own thing always like, do I have time to learn how to understand it in light of the other stuff that I need to do, right? Like, do I have time to be over here fiddling with this? But then, which I might say, no, I don't. But then I might go, wait a minute. Are stupid people beating me to the punch? Because they over there like, I don't care. Mash the button. Mash the button. They mashing the button. It is spitting out coins, and I'm over here, again trying to be, I'm doing the right thing, and I'm like, damn, brother over here, I could have sold some ebooks or something, some righteous ebooks, not no foolishness, good stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to make a bad AI slop ebook, right? But the other people, they gonna make a whole just straight trash. Now, I don't, there's other things about what the AI tools do, especially around video. I mean, like the whole, Lego situation, I guess, crossing into something we might get into more, but the situation in Iran was happening, and whoever was making them AI produced Lego videos, you know, it's with Chef Kiss, like y'all killing it from a messaging propaganda, whatever, y'all,
Can I add
embarrass
on
it in
real
the world.
quickly
Yeah.
about that? Because I think that it goes to the point you were saying about how the rest of the world is going to use these tools. The tools are going to be used. That ain't the question. The question is how you use the tool, how do you mitigate the risk, and it's going to be a part of war, not just with drones
Right,
and
right.
but actually down to videos
Yeah.
that change hearts. Like, so it's stuff that's going to be blowing people up, and let's just call it what it is. It's stuff that's going to be blowing people up, whether it's really advanced AI or not advanced AI. It's still going to be blowing people up. And then there's a how do you win hearts using AI. And so I just wanted to make that point to complement what you were saying, to add on, like, the tool is the tool. It's up to you to figure out if you're going to use it, but at some point there's not going to be some sort of righteousness or saintliness in not using it.
Yeah.
One of the things in the article and where I was looking at what's my man name? Raul Emanuel's brother. The damn mother Emmanuel. Ari Emanuel.
All right. Okay.
And he was, one thing he was interesting, because when you represent writers, right? Like, they're in crisis mode, because somebody could take an idea and just start just developing ideas. And if something has access to all the LLMs, all the things that have been written, then it can just write stuff for you. So writers they don't mean as much, because good writers are always going to write better things, right? But it's like it complements the average. But one thing that you can't never not do, which in some way goes back to what you and I talk about a lot, is experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
The anti AI is experiences, because that's the one thing no one can make up, like the actual human interplay. You can even use AI to help you establish human interplay, but the actual human interplay is something that's unique to itself.
Yeah.
So it's that sophistication of figuring out, again, any of these tools. I was probably the last one. I might have been one of the last ones in America to start using certain technology, right? But like, I like to find cheap tickets. I want Google to aggregate the cheapest tickets to get somewhere. Yes, absolutely. Right? Like, I want that information. I don't want to have to go to 6 sites to find out what's the cheapest ticket between, here in New York. Right? So I think the use of it, the recognizing of it, and the literacy, kind of going back to the
Mm-hmm.
idea, where's the literacy around AI, and how are we preparing people who, in some ways, our schools were not preparing young people for the time we was already in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That now you might have another time with another form of literacy. And how do we work through that? And what is that literacy? And how is it from a communal perspective, from an ecosystem perspective? So again, it doesn't have to be, well, if your parents don't know about AI, then you're just illiterate about it. Or if you go to a school where the teacher's only been there 2 years and is about to leave that school in another year, so they haven't built relationships with the students in the community, that they're not going to communicate AI literacy in the same way that others would.
Yeah. And it gets to this thing that like I said, I was the one of the AI that I was first like, okay, I'm gonna like pay for a subscription for a couple months, and like when I find time, like go over here and like do a thing with it. Was Chat GPT, and their owner is such a aggravated, full of crapist. I was just like, I just can't keep paying for this dude. Something that's
You know,
even
Sam Altman.
yeah, he's like, oh my gosh, this guy, man. It's like, yo, man, like I don't want to be next to you. So then I'm like, try another one. Like I gotta try the other, like a different drawing. So then I'm like, well, I haven't got around to picking another one to like test out. But then like I was doing reading, and there's like these other, like again, there's these other. We sometimes can have an interaction with a thing again that's like where the person that and they're like, as you stated, they're at the house just talking to the AI all night, telling it, hey, AI, I love Star Wars. How many people did Mace Windu, fight in the Star Wars, the first animated series, not the second one, the one before Dave Filoni, and give me some clips. You know what I'm saying? And they're just they're just AI in it all out. You know what I'm saying? They're just burning through data. And and for whatever it's worth,
Right.
right? They're progressing on an arc of an understanding and relationship with this tool that you over there like, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna go get my dictionary out and read words the original way, you know what I'm saying, in paragraphs, because I'm righteous. I'm not, that you could be, unintentionally like seeding the ground to someone else, right? You're just giving it to these other people. And then there's the other aspect. Like I've been reading, like there's a sister person. I don't know. I don't remember how they identify, but I'm like studying these other parameters around like trying to separate these technology tools necessarily from their corporate masters, so to
Right.
speak,
Right.
and learning how society, like, I'm on this thing. I'll be looking like, can I de-Google it? Can I de-Google myself? Like, you know what I mean? Because like, at some point it's like, damn, like, I like certain stuff I just like, look, I'm in the matrix. I'm gonna just go ahead and be in the matrix and fight it out from there. Like, people be like, oh man, the government might know where you at. The government gonna find me already. All right, I'm out here. My name is Justice. That's not a vector for defense for me anymore. So therefore, it's like, nah,
Right.
I'm not only do you know where I at, you come over, you better have your stuff together. You better have your legal paperwork and all that, because it's gonna be a rough day. Without, you ain't gonna come over here and buzz my tower without, anyway. I don't want to get too spicy on the internet, but you know what I'm saying, right? So then you gotta be, like you have to decide where you're gonna set your positioning.
Right.
And the thing I should add, because we did speak on it, the interesting thing about the data center conversation is like they don't have to do evaporative cooling. They know they don't have to do like it's almost like a lot of things in American industrial history where it's like we don't have to do it this terrible way, but like if you'll let us, since we already bought all this stuff, we just want to do it this way. And it's like, no, don't do it that way. Why are y'all like this? Why can't y'all just be like, yo, actually, if we didn't use all the water and didn't want to burn diesel, propane, methane generators, most people wouldn't have a too big outside of the at least me, the tax base piece where it's like, hey man. And I would share a good piece from Oregon Center for Public Policy because something people don't know where I live is like we got like 29 to 30, more than potentially more than 30 data centers, like and back to early internet, like in the 80s and 90s data center, like right here. And one of the challenges is some of these places, especially all across the state, but not just here, is they got really sweet tax deals to build these joints. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna leave. And then it's sort of like, no, you ain't. You ain't leaving. You can't take all that stuff to wherever you talk about. Like you talking, but will people have the structural courage to be like, all right, prove it. If you're gonna bounce, then bounce. You know what I mean? Like it is and I think that's just from so there's the one of these people don't have to be terrible, but for whatever reason they always seem dedicated to it until you until you really push back at them like, yo, just use a different cooling methodology, fam. You don't got to do that. Like you don't have to do that. But you're like, again, I think you have a business positionality that tells me we already brought all the evaporative cooling stuff, so we want to use that instead of the other system. We already planned our plan off of the idea, or got financing from some other person, or got a deal from some other, from an investment group based on the idea that we were going to do it at this number. So by you saying this, we gotta adjust the number. We don't want to go back and talk to them. So we're going to try and play a hard ball with you so that you will relent as a community and otherwise. And so I'm just putting that out there just to say that, like, from a policy perspective, there's a lot more that can be done to try to find a balance. And then again, places where you already, like I said, I'm in a place, we data center to the gills, and it's going to be more. So the conversation that you have may be advantageous to have a different conversation. Like, look, my whole thing is like, I know it's only gonna be like 10 jobs when y'all finish building, like, finish that. But what else is attached to this? Do we get to use some of that computing power as a community, right? Like these other questions and concepts that maybe could be out there. And again, before somebody jump on Justice, I'm just thinking out loud. All right, don't come over here getting crazy on the internet. Justice said he want to build a data center. I ain't say that. What I said was I want to think about what our options are as people, and that whether they was Google or Microsoft or Intel or Nvidia or whoever's data center, data centers are going to be a part of the human project.
If you keep using the internet, data centers is going to be part of the project.
It's going to still be there. Right now, if we all decide we're not going to use the internet no more, okay, let's talk about that. Could be interesting. See what's our parameters. What's our I like to turn off my phone time to time, so like I'm not anti any of that. Some of y'all, from my experience, y'all just be on the internet again, just snapping away, sharing everything, like just all out there. So yeah, I'd like to do is, one of the things I've put on my radar is like I should again do something with the AI to like figure out how it could be useful for the stuff I be thinking about in life, which then gets into like, am I doing the stuff that I want to be interested in doing in life from multiple perspectives. I mean, the one thing I do use a AI based tool to make clips of these here videos because your brother is not an editor. So
that's what I'm saying.
Just letting y'all know, AI is stealing our thoughts, man. AI trying to copy Justice and Majestic right now.
That's what I'm saying. Let's just be real about it. You use it. What does it mean? How do you mitigate risk? How do you mitigate harm? And like you said, from a political level, if they're coming to your communities, what is the community going to get out of it? How long is it going to be there? How do you limit the noise, the constant humming that comes out of them. You know, how do you make sure people don't sue too early? There's been stuff up here where people sued or tried to stop them before there was actual laws on the books, which actually meant once they put the laws on the books, you had to let them go. So there's also the whole thing about, if you are someone that's concerned about it, how are you dealing with it in a healthy way? How are you presenting to people? What are the options? It was not a year and a half ago or a year ago, the Trump administration was like, build them, Jack. Now they're like, well, you got to create your own power, right? Because people of all kinds have been coming up saying, hey, we got questions about this, right? Now it gets more challenging in rural and places that are quote unquote starved for jobs, in the whole, like, we need something new here, and there's going to be other companies coming in with hyperscalers around these businesses. Could be true sometime, could not be true. The challenge is, like any political or any like economic model, what is our perspective? How do you mitigate risk? And how do you negotiate for people to be able to benefit, again, in that other space? The other part is, how do you, when it's easier to not read a book? Because then everyone says, why would I go read a book when I can get all the Cliff Notes, right? This is like Cliff Notes on steroids. But I can get all the information that I need in 45 seconds versus, you know, reading a book. But like, again, literacy wise, and, you know, I want to share this for all the people who are listening and watching, the people who run stuff outside of maybe current people in America, they still read books.
To read the whole paragraphs, the whole essays.
They still read the whole essay. The people who come up with the intellectual principles and stuff that many people don't like, they read books. They read other people's books. They write stuff. So we have to be very careful to think that, okay, well, because it's easier to use it, we don't have to be literate in other forms. All we have to do is be AI literate. No, we need to be literate in the broad sense and use it as a tool and not be used as a slave.
Yeah. I mean, and now this may be my closing thought on this is, you know, I am of the you know, people go, oh, the AI is what's making. I'm like, hey man, some of y'all been on dumb time for a minute. Like y'all didn't. The AI is just the new way you trying not to learn stuff and not have to experience the disequilibrium of going through a process to understand something. Like this is just, it ain't no different than some of y'all 10, 15 years ago going, well, you could just Google it and then you'll know. Like, no, you won't. You just will have Googled it and you might land on the correct answer. You might, that first or second link you click may be the correct answer, but you don't actually know that that's the correct answer. You're hoping that I know enough to know that that's the correct answer. So when you say it to me, you be like, yeah, see, there you go. I found this right there. It's like, how do you know? Because, you know, you don't. I know you don't. And that's, you know, it's not okay. However, I will give you, you know, an opportunity to continue and do more study so that you could be, you know, so that, yeah, that's a conversation that we'll need to, you know, come back to. So, all right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to break and we're going to have a second conversation. You know what I'm saying? We're going to try something different. See if this works. So with that,
Turn soon.
I'm going to say peace. Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. This is part 1 of a 2-part conversation. So, you know, do the thing, fizzle, you know what I mean? Search Patreon and all that. Justice Rajee, become a subscriber, or, you know, rate, subscribe, share, you know, all of that, where you be at. But thank you for listening, and we appreciate you. Peace.